Hey guys, welcome to Switch Tech Solutions. Today we're going to be going over the CCNA 1 Packet Tracer 2.1.4.6 called Navigating the iOS. In this activity, we will practice skills necessary for navigating the Cisco IOS, such as different user access modes, various configuration modes, and common commands used on a regular basis. This video is purely educational. Please attempt the Packet Tracer on your own, or attempt it again after watching this video to get the most information out of it as possible. So let's get right into it. As you can see, we have the workspace on the left with our switch and our PC, and on the right we have all our activity outlines. So let's go to part 1 and step 1. Let's connect PC 1 to switch 1 using a console cable. So go to the connections button and click on the blue console cable. Now click on the PC and we have to connect it to the correct port. And for the PC, this is the RS-232 port, as this is a serial connection. Now go up and click on the switch 1 and click on the console port. We have now connected our PC to switch 1 via a console connection. Our next step is to establish a terminal session with the switch. So let's click on the PC 1. Navigate to the Desktop tab and click on the Terminal button. For our first question there, the bits per second is 9600, and we can change that depending on our settings. However, keep it as the default and click OK. We have now established our terminal session with the switch. Press enter to get started, and we see our first prompt is the user exec mode. Now let's go on to the step 3 and explore the iOS. So type the question mark command, and we see all the commands available for the user exec mode. If we want to look at specific commands, which is context sensitive, type T and directly after use the question mark. This will look for any commands starting with the letter T. Let's take this one step further. Type TE and question mark. As we see now, it only outputs 2 commands that start with TE. Let's go on to the second part. Type the question mark again and look for the enable command. If we read the description there, it says turn on privileged commands. So let's type EN and then actually click the tab key like it suggests. We see that it auto completes to the full enable command. Try this with just the E, however. It doesn't work. The reason this doesn't work is because if we look at all the commands in user exec mode, there is 2 commands, the enable and the exit command, both starting with E. So when you type tab, Cisco doesn't know what you want autocomplete to. So put in the N, press tab, and it autocompletes to enable, as that's the only command starting with EN. Press enter, and we are now in the privileged exec mode. And let's press the question mark again and check out all the commands. The next thing we're going to do is enter global configuration mode. So type configure, and we get this prompt here. If we read it out, it says configuring from terminal, memory, or network, and we can choose. We are currently in the terminal and want to continue there. And as we see, terminal in brackets is the default parameter. So click enter to go to the configure terminal. This changes our prompt once again, and we see we are now in the global configuration mode with all of the commands at our fingertips. If we want to go back to former modes like the privileged exec mode, type the exit command. This brings us down 1 layer at a time in the Cisco IOS. Now that we are back in the privileged exec mode, let's check out the use of the clock command. So type show clock. As we see, this outputs the time and the date for us that's set on this router. Obviously, it's wildly out of date, being in 1993. So let's figure out how to change that. Type the clock command and press enter. And as we see, the command is incomplete. It's not wrong, it's incomplete. So we know there's something that has to come after the word clock. So type clock, put a space after it, and then put the question mark command. This will show all the commands that are available after the command clock. And as we see here, the word is set, and it allows us to set the time and date. So type set after clock, use the space, and then put another question mark. And let's see what commands are available. we see we can set the current time, but it needs to be in a specific format, namely hour first, minute, then second. And as we see in our instructions, they want us to set it to 1500 hours. So type 15:00:00, put a space and the question mark, and let's check out the next commands. We have two options. We could put the day of the month or the month of the year. And we see in our instructions, they want us to set it to the January 31st, 2035. So we need to change the format a little bit to make it work with the CLI. So first, let's input the 31 for the date and put the question mark after. We see we can now put in month, so type JAN for January. Finally, put another question mark and we can use the year. So type 2035. Press enter and we have set our clock. And let's use that show clock command again. We see we have changed the clock correctly and we see we have set it to January 31st, 2035. So that's all the configuration we're going to do in this video. However, in step 2, it shows us a couple more features the Cisco CLI has. So type the CL command and we see that it says ambiguous command. Cisco doesn't know what it wants to do with this and it's not a command. So now just type clock. As we saw before, this command is incomplete, not ambiguous. This means there's information that could come after it to complete this command. Now let's try setting the clock to 2500 hours. Now obviously this doesn't make sense. 2500 hours does not exist. So type enter and we see that it's an invalid input directed at the marker. And we see the marker is pointing right to the 25. So it won't let us put an invalid time in there. So now let's try the clock set 1500 command, but let's put the 32nd as the date. There's no month with 32 days. Press enter and we will be given an invalid input at the marker and it shows exactly where we messed up in our command. Make sure to pay attention to each keystroke in commands because you need to be perfect when inputting the CLI information. Don't be worried though, if you make mistakes, Cisco will let you know where you have made your mistakes and you can go back and fix it. So close out of that and we have now completed all the configuration necessary. But scroll down to the bottom of the packet tracer activity and we see a 20 out of 20 completed. That means we've completed everything in this packet tracer. We can look at the suggested scoring rubric, or we can go to the check results button. Click on it and it opens up a whole new tab. So maximize it and we see we have 3 different sections here. The first one saying that we have completed this packet tracer with 20 out of 20, but click the assessment items. This highlights each individual thing in this packet tracer that needs to be done to score 20 out of 20. Namely, we need to connect the PC to the switch using the console connection, and we see what each thing is worth points-wise. Now, this is a beginner, simple packet tracer example, but as they get larger, there'll be much more things to do. So if you are struggling to figure out that last little bit of complete, or maybe you're missing a couple commands, check out the results page and see maybe what you're missing or maybe what you mistyped. Once you are done with this page and want to go back to the workspace, simply exit out of this and it brings you right back to the workspace. That concludes this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe and hit the like button, and I will see you in my next video.